When you build a better mousetrap, the world will build a path to your door. And that's everyone's goal, to build something that will attract people, not just on the continent, but from the world. And that's Nigeria's goal on a daily basis. That's what 200 people are pushing for. Ensure that we are recognized globally and internationally. One sector that must thrive for us to succeed, for us to push ahead, is the aviation sector. Now, on Weekend Deal today, we're looking at the airlines, but we're also looking at the passengers. How have they fared? What's been our aviation story from inception up till now? We welcome you very warmly to Weekend Deal, and we trust you be a part of our interactive program so that together, as we always do, we'll examine how we are faring in the aviation sector. My name is Thelma Obaze.
And I am Ayuba Tete. Welcome to Africa's Biggest Deal. And just like Thelma had mentioned, we are talking about the air sector, and we have come a long way since 1922, I believe, when the first aircraft landed in Kano, and we have progressed to well over 30 local airports. So, you know, we have to say to ourselves kudos, but then again, we have had our challenges. So today we are going to go in-depthly in that regard and know what is the way forward as far as the air sector is concerned. So let's get the ball rolling.
Many times when we fly within our country and outside, we have different experiences, some good, some not so good, some better than they were the last time. But Ayuba, tell us, what's next?
Of course, we're going to launch today's activities, of course, with a very interesting backgrounder. And I will ask, if you don't mind, when was the last time you flew?
I think about 4 months ago.
Okay.
3 months in December.
Oh, okay. Well, mine has been a little bit longer, and from the stories that I've heard, there have been a lot of changes, some good, some bad, some interesting, like you said. And every commuter has his or her own story. But we'll start with this interesting backgrounder, and we'll be right back to chop it up as regarding the air sector. Stay tuned.
Air travel is fast and more fashionable now in Nigeria than it has been in the past. West African Airways Corporation was in existence for many years before Nigeria Airways came into being on August 23rd, 1958, and commenced operations a few weeks later.
Those days of Nigerian Airways, of course, we have everything to be happy about. Even traveling abroad and all that. But today, if you look around, you will even see that things are no longer as it used to be those days.
In its heydays in the 1980s, Nigerian Airways had a fleet of over 30 aircraft and flew passengers to quite a number of destinations locally and internationally. Eventually, Nigeria Airways was liquidated in September 2004 after it slipped into indebtedness. Many more airlines have emerged and continue to thrive since that time. Many of these airlines hold sway on domestic roads. In times past, many Nigerians looked forward to traveling by road. Nowadays, though, perhaps as a result of insecurity and in some cases little maintenance on some roads and highways in Nigeria, more and more people are embracing air travel. Despite this fact, some Nigerians opine that the cost of tickets should not be arbitrary and dependent on the airline's whims.
Like consistently asking for money, the person you're meeting at that's meant to check you in and all of that, to give you your boarding pass, is actually asking you or literally asking you for tips if you're just like 20 or 30 minutes late. Do you understand? So these are stuff that I feel like they need to be really looked into.
Way back, Nigeria recorded several mishaps involving passenger planes. Tragic experiences where lives and property were lost. And coupled with inadequate compensation and uncoordinated investigations, it caused many Nigerians to watch our skies and commercial fleets with bated breath. Thankfully, in the last decade, there have hardly been plane crashes involving commercial airlines in Nigeria. In a related development, in a bid to provide efficient air transportation for Nigerians in 2018, an attempt was made to float a national carrier, Nigeria Air, at a fair in London, which the Honourable Minister for Aviation, Hadi Sirika, attended. Good news, however. History was made in the aviation sector on May 21, 2021, when Dana and Ibom Air synergized, forming a powerful alliance which gives rise to full code share agreement, where an airline places its designator code on a flight operated by another airline, as well as its tickets. Expectations are high that more collaborations will follow to boost the aviation sector. Meanwhile, latest aviation information is beaming its searchlight on adulterated fuel imports, while in some quarters there's concern about 100% hike in aviation fuel, with experts saying the domestic aviation industry risks collapse. All this and more will form our topic for discourse on Weekend Deal with aviation experts. Join in the conversation. Weekend Deal is interactive as you often participate. Please send in your messages. Tell us what your experiences have been like. Listen to what we're doing and make your contributions. We would love to hear from you because together we're building our great country. And now, talking about access and challenges that one can face. We often say that Lagos is a commercial nerve center. Indeed, it is. So imagine when people want to travel, oftentimes you are caught in traffic for like 2 hours. You have a 10 a.m. flight, you should leave your house by 5:30 in the morning. But from Lagos, let's get the real life example. How is it happening over there?
Lagos State, being a hub of commercial activities, has contributed to the vibrancy of the city. Hence, this has attracted lots of local and foreign investors into the state. The Murtala Muhammed Airport is a major route people come into Lagos, and the daily influx of people from other parts of the country has contributed to the huge human and vehicular pressure at the airport, and according to research, making it the busiest airport in Africa.
Number one commercial city in the country. So they should see how they can improve, make sure, especially flight schedules.
It's a commercial place, and that's why the congestion is always here. And you see people tripping and coming, going, and it's a place that everybody wants to fly from Lagos.
In recent times, the Lagos airport has been experiencing challenges in congestion. This has made the premises difficult to access, especially drop-off and pick-up.
The airlines don't keep to their flight schedules. As they don't keep to their flight schedules, the inside here, the waiting section is congested, so that almost 1,000 people, more than 1,000 passengers were standing in this small place, and there is no enough seat for people to sit.
It's actually when you come from to check in your bags, when there is a congestion there, they need to find out a better way to handle customers so that usually people come and they're worked up.
Really been a bad experience, and as you can see, the hall is full and congested. There's no place to sit, there's no AC, so they just keep apologizing for moving the flight. And then again, importantly, that also distorts people's plans.
Apart from the heat one is going through here, the congestion makes the whole thing bad. It's nothing to write home about.
How safe is the Lagos airport for passengers?
There is enough securities. I prefer Lagos than other airports. Yes, there are enough securities in Lagos from that airport down inside the airport.
Security-wise too, it's not good because, there's so many bags everywhere. You don't know what is in the bag, for example. But and then because the people there's so many people around, you can't really place which face you've seen in the last 30 minutes.
According to airport officials who spoke off camera, they revealed that efforts are ongoing to improve on the infrastructure and service delivery at the General Aviation Terminal, Lagos.
From the challenge of congestion to the issue of security at the Murtala Mohammed Airport, the good news is government and the authority of the airport are putting all hands on deck to ensure that the environment is safe and conducive for passengers by fast-tracking the ongoing renovation, bracing up security, and curtailing the excesses of anything for the boys by attendants of the airports. Let's go back to the studio as Weekend Deal continues.
That phrase again, anything for the boys, and it's kind of permeated everywhere, not just the flight sector. But since we are focusing on that, we are going to be talking with our illustrious guest, somebody with such a very, very impressive pedigree. Of course, I'm talking about Captain Jonathan Baba Ibrahim. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, welcome.
And let's just, get the ball rolling. Could you please, sir, just give us a brief history for a lot of people, like myself, who are rather, much younger, of how we have fared from the beginning of the airline industry and how it is now and the challenges so far, and what you think your own 2 cents in the regard of the whole sector, sir.
Well, in the 60s, 70s,
Yes, sir.
Nigerian Airways was established as a social airline to operate into all the states and to be the flag carrier or the national carrier. And the government bought all the aircrafts and we were running it as professionals. But along the line, with the devaluation of the Naira and so many other factors, the Nigerian factor, I put it, we started sliding down. From about 32 aircrafts, 1991, we ended up with 3 aircrafts.
In what year, sir?
Well, that was in the 80s. 85,
From
86.
30 aircrafts or 32
Yes.
to 3 aircrafts.
By 1990s.
What happened? They were sold
They were sold by the regime of the day.
because they needed maintenance?
The 727, you see, we had so much money, as they say, at that time.
The oil boom.
So they wanted to throw away all the propellers and the small aircraft and buy the big jets.
Which was a good decision, did you say?
Well, but they didn't see tomorrow. You see, we could have remained as a third developing country and grow gradually.
Okay.
You bought all these jets. You can't give the citizens basic things, water, medical, and the rest of it, let alone buying millions of equipment.
So when we jumped from 30 to 3, what happened to us in 1991?
Well, with devaluation of the Naira and the Nigerian factor greed, and they were bringing in chief executives, changing them per second. Any government that comes, they want to put their boys.
People with
And
experience.
who are not experienced. At that time, when we had the 30s, we had the professionals running it, Captain Tahal, Alaji Bature, and the rest of them. They were all Captain Orwell Brown, Captain Ohioma, were all professionals, Captain Ori. We were the younger ones then anyway. So things were working very well.
Doing our research, word came to us and some opinions were that there was gross corruption and misappropriation of funds with the Nigerian Airways at that time, and that's what led to its being liquidated eventually.
Yes, they threw away the professionals and brought in their boys in the military and also in the diaspora. They came in without the knowledge of the industry because it's a specialized industry. You have aviation pilots, aviation engineers, aviation management, aviation pilots, aviation doctors. It's a specialized field. But typical Nigerian corruption, they thought the dollar is there, they should send in their boys and steal the dollars.
Wow.
So this is what happened. They brought non-entities who don't know the industry, and it went down.
When we listen to elders like you speak, talk about experiences like this, we are learning. And it helps us to make better decisions that can impact our country positively. Indeed, we are learning. We were talking about the Virgin Nigeria, and later we do know it was sold to a Nigerian. We have a national carrier for an entire country, run in national fashion. Then it is handed over to one person. How does that work, and what happened from there?
Actually,
is it even
you see,
important to have a national
I happen to know those that were interested. There were about 3 Nigerians, the so-called big men, which I call them big thieves. They were the in-between with Branson. And after they liquidated the airline, one of the government's son was the middleman. There was a head of state involved and a chief from Sokoto, who was supposed to be the middleman. But the government, one of the government's son, took over and brought Branson. And how can you give a whole one, at that time were 150 to 180 million Nigerians. They are taxpayers. You go and give it to one man who is a crook as far as I'm concerned. I'm sorry.
So are you saying it was doomed from the start?
Yeah, they went and gave the whole national career to an individual to run. And that individual came in with a son of one of the big men as the middleman, started his own show, and at the end, the same corruption. He is a crook, and you got bigger crooks in Nigeria. He ran away. You couldn't fit him.
Sir, we'll talk more about that because now our viewers who are watching us discuss this very vibrant topic have stressing their contributions. But for now, let's look at flying. Is it because of fashion or is it a necessity in these days? Dayo did this research. Let's see what she found.
That air traveling has improved over the years. In the olden days, we used to have just Nigerian Airways, but now we have more airlines operating. More people are traveling now. A lot of safety has been recorded. However, the system still has some teething problems with cancellations of flights, delays, and not really giving consideration to the plight of the travelers. So no compensation for such things. I think that's basically, but in effect, I still think air traveling has been on the success rate. Again, there is buoyancy. People seem to earn more money now, and they can afford air flights, and they are more aware of the benefits of air flight. Obviously, there's a boost in economy because government is able to generate revenue from all the airlines that are traveling. They must pay some fee, some levy, and government is able to do that, get something from them. Again, the fact that there are many airlines, for each of the airlines, they employ people, and you kind of generate employment for so many people. And in the long run, the economy is for the better. It reduces the high accident rates, which has plagued our roads. Very few accidents. Of course, there are accidents on the road, but very few times. Unlike the road where every day you hear accidents, people are maimed, people die. Traveling by airline is far better.
Again, the question still lies, is it fashion or necessity? These days, I think it's a little bit of both. What do you think, Thelma?
Yes, necessity, because it has become imperative. If you want to be safe and you want to enjoy what you're doing and arrive at your destination in record time, the air travel will do it. But for some people, okay, my friends are going by air, let me too also go by air. But for those who are dipping their hands into the pocket to pay for the fares, we know it is essential if you want to arrive at your destination swiftly, barring delays which have become the norm. But before you ask your question, let me just take two messages in this. Nigeria Domestic Airlines has a long way to go, so say our viewer. Imohimi says he's a PhD holder, but he didn't tell us where he's reaching us from. He says corruption seems to have eaten deep into the system. He says the way things are now, it seems to be the hand of God, saving passengers and all the aircrafts which are being flown. He says it does seem like many of them are outdated, which has brought it to the fore now that there needs to be a rescue operation with our domestic airlines in Nigeria. So the second one quickly, someone is asking from Zaria. It says you had one very vibrant young pilot in those days. He said, MD, please, where's one of your staff, Captain Baba Mohammed? But tell us, you were nodding your head earlier when we were talking about ineptitude and perhaps corruption and outdated aircraft. Is that the state?
Well, as the president of the African Airlines, I did my AGM in Abuja, 1991. And I told all the ambassadors, the Africans, that, gentlemen, Air Africa, 14 African countries collapsed. Nigeria, the biggest in Africa, collapsed. How can one man bring aircraft and say he's running an airline? Most of the people that did it, Cabo, Okada, they collapsed. They were rich, they have the backing of the government, but they collapsed with plenty of aircrafts. And only Nigerian Airways survived for a while. So no one man can show in Africa, I'm sorry. And I advise them, let's go back. Nigeria as the nucleus, to start West African Airline as before, North African Airline, East African Airline, and South African Airline. Zaria standard is way above American standard and British standard, because I've gone to both of them. I have the licenses of both of them.
But is that till now? Is that standard being maintained?
No, it has also collapsed, because even when the government said we should be fired and they shouldn't employ us, that's what happened. Let me tell you the truth. So all the experienced pilots, out of personal issues which I don't want to say here, but I've told you by the side, you destroy the whole nation.
The passenger who is paying his airfare also has needs.
Definitely.
He's been promised something, and when it's not, when the deliverables are not there, they feel they've been cheated. Even when eventually you board the aircraft, you feel like it's been a wasted effort. You have missed your meeting, you are arriving late in the night, no one to pick you and all of that. Who is looking out for the passengers? Who ought to?
Well, unfortunately, there is ignorance. The customers don't know their rights. If they had known their rights, things would have changed in the industry, aviation or those that produce goods, services. Because there is a government, I think, commission, which is independent, and it is said that every airline should have a box, one for the airline and one for the NCA, the authority. Your complaints as a customer, you can go and drop it there. And then they get in touch with you, they call you, they resolve it or they compensate you. That will keep them on their toes.
Okay.
And then there's a national body by the government, a commission, that if you are not satisfied, you go to them. And they are like a court, about 3-man, and anything they finally decide, the court, they register it, is final, unless you can appeal after 30 days. But the passengers don't know their rights. And it's in every other thing. You go to everywhere, they cheat you, don't know where to go and look for a redress. So there is that commission and there is that right for you to complain and be compensated. And if the man giving you the services will wake up. Because you take him to court and you get billions, maybe some people. Doctors are going out, professionals are going out, business people are going out, and you delay them. And nothing happens.
For it.
The same mentality of Nigerians. You don't care. Corruption. You go and pay off, nothing happens. They leave you there like a fool.
You've talked about the way forward in many of your write-ups.
Yes.
Can we have a few of the tips?
Well, the way forward, as I've said, we have to get a national carrier, which will metamorphose into West African carrier. But you see, there's pride, Francophone and Anglophone. But if we can get it done, because they don't have the capacity to do it. So the way forward is for Nigeria, which has the manpower and the finances to start that nucleus, to get a national carrier, and also allow other people to have a flag carrier. If they do most of the domestic, as I've told you, there are only going to be one mega. And it was the same government, we went to South Africa to start a mega carrier. The same government blew it. The minister brought the idea. We went for interview. We were supposed to come as one mega carrier. And then the other persons who are interested in aviation can run the domestic with high standards to maintain. But we blew it. So that's the only way forward. No African airline can run an airline. They only bring and then collapse after 2 days or kill people.
And we don't want any more of that.
We don't want.
We want to thank you for keeping our company on Weekend Deal today. It has been an honor. Indeed, you're one of Nigeria's illustrious sons. And we have learned from you today. We can tell people that we had the opportunity, the privilege to chat with Captain Jonathan Ibrahim. It's been an honor indeed. Please, we look up to you for the good ideals that you lived by and still live by. And we want to be, like you, and perhaps do a few things that you have said kind of grow our country, especially the aviation sector.
Can I say one word?
Okay.
They say I'm the poorest MD in Nigeria. So you people have to help me, because there was an inquiry, and I'm the only one cleared out of 10 managing directors. Not 1 naira, not $1 stolen.
But that's good, right?
Although I was fired. But I went back and fired the minister and went back to my work.
No, you may be poor
because
in
of the truth.
You may be poor in one or two things, but definitely you are rich as far as experience.
Virtues and values are concerned.
Yes,
indeed. Thank you for making the time for Nigeria today.
Thank you, madam.
You are watching Weekend Deal. We'll take a break. Please stay with us. There's more.
Welcome back from that commercial break. You are still on Africa's Biggest Deal, Weekend Deal, and we are now going for a feature by Ijoma talking about ticket refund and other related matters as regarding passengers and, of course, the whole flight process. So, Ijoma, take it away.
The aviation industry has played a key role in the growth and development of economies worldwide, and in Nigeria as well. In recent past, this sector has become a preferred means of transportation in the face of bedeviling occurrences on Nigerian roads, and domestic airline operators are booming for that.
The fact that insecurity in this country has taken another dimension altogether. People are very skeptical about traveling by road. So generally that's why everybody has to go by air, because one doesn't really have a choice.
Nevertheless, it is frustrating that air passengers still encounter numerous challenges while traveling and hardly get redress for them, despite existing laws and policies guiding the operations of the aviation industry in Nigeria. Issues with money refund, flight cancellations and delays, loss of baggage or delays are becoming a norm with air traveling, and it is worrisome.
Yes, there is no way that you can do aviation without delays, without cancellations, without loss of baggage, pilfered baggage, things like that. They happen all over the world. ICAO itself, the International Civil Aviation Organization, which is the umbrella body of all civil aviation authorities in the world, recognizes that things must happen. But they also encourage all jurisdictions to also come up with rules to regulate consumer protection in the sector. Highlights of which are, if you delay a flight for upwards of 2 hours, you have to serve refreshments to your passengers, checked-in passengers, that is. And then you have to, anything above that, a person has the choice of asking for a refund, full refund of his money. And cancellation of flights also has their own regulation that it comes with. You have to refund, if the cancellation at the instance of the airline, you have to refund fully the cost of that ticket that the person has bought.
Now, some of these rights are accessible to passengers as contained in the Nigeria Civil Aviation Regulation, and which has also been re-emphasized by the Aviation Minister, Hadi Sirika. But is that achievable as easy as it sounds?
It is a very, very tasking thing to do the balancing act, because aviation is a highly regulated industry and it is for the purposes of safety. So safety has to come first. You see, when the equipment that the aircraft itself malfunctions and is grounded, what we call aircraft on ground, you have to look at those technicalities and ensure that passengers don't take that aircraft, because you have to, first of all, arrive in one piece before you start talking of comfort, before you start talking of living on time. Also, the issue of weather plays a major part, and in these parts of the world, we don't have the equipment, so to speak, that will allow zero visibility landings. So therefore, weather plays a vital role in delays and cancellation of flights. But then there are regulations guiding them, so that if you delay the flight for so number of hours, you do this to the passenger. Important thing is this: you see, with sector regulators, they really do have issues. I'm talking from personal experience now, because I headed consumer protection in NTA. So you see, the sector regulator has this familiarity with the service provider, in that you also regulate the service provider in other areas apart from consumer protection. As sector regulator in aviation, you look at both sides, because the airline is also the consumer of your services. So applying the rules fully becomes an issue.
Inasmuch as there are unsettled issues with the law, air passengers and Nigerians must be aware that whenever they suffer a wrong in their dealings with airline operators, or even any sort of undelivered services paid for, they have the right to seek redress and be compensated.
But with the FCCPC, we are only interested in the interest of the consumer of that service. So therefore, the umbrella regulation that we have says protect the interests of the consumer. So we look at how you have taken care of the consumer in such an instance when you have delays or cancellations of a flight.
The easiest way to complain to us right now, which it's proven very effective and convenient for consumers, is that of our app. We have the FCCPC app, which you can download through Google Play Store. Makes everything easier, even while it's happening at the airport. You could just go down there and complain. Just provide us with the details, down to your ticket number and everything.
Well, seeking redress starts with knowing your rights and obligations. So, this is to encourage Nigerians to be aware of how, when, and where to get redress should their rights be infringed on by airline operators or any public service provider.
You have rights as a passenger when you utilize your hard-earned resources and purchase a ticket. You have rights. At some point, you may want a refund. At some point, your flight is delayed. I've had issues where I had to buy another ticket for another airline because the one I initially bought was delayed. And I didn't know where to go to make my complaints. You have been told the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Council. You have rights. Download their app and make sure that you know what to do and follow up assiduously. And that's how we go to Lagos. Ayuba, it's time to go to Lagos to see Engineer Osita Okonkwo, Chief COO of United Nigeria Airlines. Great to have you on Weekend Deal. Chief Operating Officer of the United Nigeria Airlines. Great to have you on Weekend Deal. On Weekend Deal.
Thank you, NTA. Thank you, Madam, for having us and having me. Yeah.
Presenter at the airline, tell us what's the journey been like? What special niche did you bring on board to the domestic airline travel routes in Nigeria? Tell us.
Thank you, and thank you, viewers. The United Nigeria Airlines started operations exactly 1 year ago. 12th of February was when we did our inaugural flight. And when we came in, our objective was basically to fill a gap that we believe existed in terms of the services that are provided and the issue of destinations and capacity. So one of the things we did was to make sure that we served areas that needed the services most. Second was to make sure that our turnaround time, our customer service presentations were up to the expectations of our customers, and also to work closely with all the stakeholders to make sure that efficient services are provided. So basically, we have the objective of ensuring that passengers are connected safely to their destinations as and when they need, and also over time to cover the rest of Nigeria.
There's this, of course, as we had just watched in our last report, what is your stance as the airline as regarding 100% refund and other due compensations for people who either missed their flight entirely or have their flight delayed? What is your stance in that regard?
As United Nigeria Airlines, we believe in ensuring, first of all, making sure that passengers receive the services they have paid for. So our objective number one is to complete all the flights we have scheduled on time and as scheduled. That is the objective we have set for ourselves. If in unforeseen circumstances some flights are not completed, either because of weather, the sunset requirements at the destination airport, and so on and so forth, every passenger is entitled to full refund of their ticket if they so desire. If they want to reschedule it, they're entitled to reschedule to any destination within our our schedule without any charge whatsoever. In addition, we provide other incentives, including free tickets on your next travel, discounted tickets, and so on and so forth. We do all the things that are required to make the passenger feel good, to restore him in a state where he should have been if we had done the flight as expected. So that is an objective, that is the principle, that's the policy at United Nigeria Airlines.
Engineer Sita, I mean, it all sounds very rosy, but when we're talking with the former MD, Nigeria Airways, Captain Jonathan Ibrahim, he was talking about the domestic airlines, something about pilots training, having core values, talking about the aircrafts and all of that. And we are looking at the longevity. It does seem that a lot of airlines have come, and then before we heave a sigh of relief, sometimes some of them are gone. It is true that some are surmounting whatever travails there are out there. Tell us, what ingenious plans, what innovations do you intend to bring to bear to ensure that United Nigeria Airlines has a long span when Nigerians can enjoy your uncommon service delivery?
I can assure you that nobody comes into any business, whether it's airline, anyone, just for the short run or just to stay for 1 year or few years and disappear. Of course, there are certain operating environmental circumstances that will make it difficult, could make it difficult for somebody to fully implement or realize the strategic plan. But for us, United Nigeria Airlines, we took time to organize, to plan, and to start. And once we have started, we can assure our teaming customers that we are here for the long run. And it starts with the way you capitalize your company, the way you set up your human resource or human capital, the way you offer your services, and make your relationship with different agencies in the sector. So for us, I can assure you that we are not, we're here to stay. And having done 1 year, we are continuously learning and making sure that all the difficulties and all the problems and all the things that are needed to be done to make sure that we remain sustainable are in place. We are lucky, we are learning from experiences of others, and we are saying that we cannot repeat those mistakes that they have made. We have integrated in our business certain measures ranging from the equipment we use, the way we maintain them, the way we deal with our customers, to make sure that over time that we continue to re-engineer ourselves.
Thank you very much, Engineer Sita Okonkwo, COO, United Nigeria Airlines. It's been a pleasure listening to you. Nigeria deserves and is working hard for a thriving aviation industry. Well done. We wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Yes, and again, happy first anniversary to United Nigeria Airlines. So we already have our next feature online, which is flight delays in recent times by Orue. So Orue, please take it away.
In recent times, the issue of flight delay has become a commonplace. Travelers have had to miss critical appointments while important schedules have been disrupted. Air travelers have become hard on domestic airlines over flight delays.
If I want to be in Lagos in 50 minutes time, in 45 minutes time, and there's a delay, you know that I won't be happy as a potential passenger. Weather turbulence is not a militative factor for flight. And that's the more reason why I think what the operators in the aviation industry should do is to actually go for more sophisticated, much more qualitative airplanes that should be able to withstand any weather at all.
I travel on Christmas. I was delayed for about 3 or 4 hours. My flight was delayed on Christmas Day. And I was told, just hold on, your flight soon come. Until even later offer us soft drink.
Imagine you pay flight and tell you your flight takes off by 2:30, 4 o'clock you are still in the airport.
There are a myriad of factors that contribute to recent flight delays and outright cancellations, some explainable and others leading to suspicions.
It's for instance, you're flying from Abuja to Lagos, and then the weatherman, makes a projection and says, wind in Lagos in the next 1 hour will be strong and may develop what is known as wind shear. A 50-minute or 1 hour flight to Lagos will have to sit on the ground here for that weather situation to get out of the way. A few of the excuses are acceptable, but a whole lot are not. If you look at the schedule online, and people based on their business book and peak timing, supposedly suit the business for which they are making that trip. And then the first one that is supposed to go for 8 o'clock is half filled, and they want a full cabin. They tell you for operational reasons we're not able to leave, and then they wait a little bit for more bookings to come in, or passengers who walk in to want to book across over the counter, and then fill up the airplane. By the time they're filling up the airplane, they have merged 8 o'clock to about 9:30 and 10 o'clock, flight, and then of course waste people's time. In most airports around the world, tankers are not seen, running up and down the tarmac anymore. Fuel dumps are right there and with pipes. Or here, what do we have? We have tankers that sometimes, on their way to coming to the airport, they suffer a breakdown, or they run into heavy traffic. The issue of Harmattan haze is still a big issue at airports that don't have Category 3 Instrument Landing System, ILS, for Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt, and Kano, where the current minister, has graciously, installed the Category 3 Instrument Landing System. We thank him for that, but it's not enough. We need to have them all over the places, because with the Category 3 Instrument Landing System, pilots need to see nothing, even in total darkness.
According to flight statements released by the Consumer Protection Department of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, NTAA, domestic airlines operating in Nigeria recorded 41,398 cases of delayed flights in 2021.
Honorable Minister Hadi Sirika announced that any airline that delayed passengers for upwards of 2 hours must refund their money. No one has enforced it, and so the airlines would not take such talks seriously. And it's up to those that are saddled with responsibility to ensure that the right things happen at the airport. And I'm talking about the NCAA, and then the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, FAN, those two major bodies, who are in charge of activities at the airports, must sit up.
Here, let's continue to interrogate air travels, aircrafts, airlines in Nigeria. Captain Roland Iyayi, former MD Nama, and the CEO of Top Brass. Great to have you with us on Weekend Deal today. We're talking about airlines and our aircraft and our airspace today, perhaps because all is not as it should be, or is all as it should be.
I would say we're not where we should be. We're not there, not because we cannot be there, but because I don't think as a country we have taken a holistic look at what we need to do to get us to where we need to be. I know a lot of people blame airlines for all sorts of issues, delays. We get blamed for not doing the right things, for sometimes even suspect aircraft. But even then, when you do all these things, it's an indictment on the system that operates the airline business. The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority is a regulatory authority, and I can assure you they will never allow any airline to bring in an aircraft into the country if that aircraft is not safe to operate. When an airline goes to procure an aircraft, the CAA goes out to do what you call a pre-arrival inspection. That's at the facility where this aircraft is being maintained to ensure that the required maintenance for this particular aircraft is carried out to the T. When the aircraft arrives, the NCA does what it calls a post-arrival inspection to ensure that all that was established during the course of the maintenance of the aircraft would have been done. And everything done on any aircraft is well documented. So to have a situation where people say, oh, an aircraft is not safe, is an indictment not to the airline, but to the CAA. Okay. But I think when it comes to the issue of how the system operates, where you have situations where passengers complain of cancellations, of delays, and what have you, it boils down to also the system. Now, when an airline sets up, it publishes a schedule. That schedule is premised on the capacity the airline has in terms of the number of aircraft. Ideally, when you're scheduling for an airline operation, if you have 10 airplanes, you do not schedule all 10 airplanes to full optimal capacity. Why? Airplanes can break down. When they do break down, you need to bring in a backup. If all 10 are engaged, otherwise, there is no backup for the broken down airplane. So you have what you call delays or cancellations. However, assuming it was done properly, you would have had 8 of maybe 10 airplanes fully scheduled, and maybe then 2 of them on a slack schedule. That way, if there's a problem with one, you can pull in from a slack schedule to cover for, the broken down airplane. You would not feel it much because there will probably be a delay.
If you are saying all these things now, Captain Roland, so easily, so clearly, with such clarity,
yes,
why does there seem to be a blockage between the passengers and those who operate these airlines? Because there seems to be an increased level of inconvenience for passengers. We are at the airport on Wednesday and on Thursday, and most of the people spoken with had loads of complaints. Some were stranded there at the airport. And you're saying this, and you're part of the, can we say you're part of the system?
I am part of a system.
So what is happening?
Well, like I said, it's a two-edged sword. Let me talk from the airline side. An airline brings an aircraft into the country. It operates the similar type aircraft, in which case this aircraft is already on its operation specifications, which is what the NCA calls it. If I'm going to add on the same type of aircraft, I am not required to go through the normal process of certificating that airplane type. The NCA now requires that you do that. When the airline brings that aircraft into the country, the day it arrives in the country, they start paying lease rentals. Now, assuming the NCAA does not, and it happens that they do, in some cases, not allow that airplane to operate for maybe say a month or 2 or 3, that airline is already losing money. The airline was already planning to have that aircraft as soon as it arrived to operate. It has scheduled to have that aircraft fly. When the NCA denies that opportunity, then flights that particular airplane should have been carrying out are either cancelled or delayed at the very best.
So the passengers bear the brunt.
The passengers have to now bear the brunt. Unfortunately, all this is not known to the passenger. In some cases, it's not necessarily this sort of situation. It could be a sort of, a sort of constriction in the capacity. I'll give you an example. You're scheduled to depart at 7 a.m. in the morning. You're already checked in. You get on the airplane 5 minutes to 7, say, and you haven't taken off at 7:30. 7 a.m. in the morning is typically the peak period. So you have several airlines queuing up, ready to take off, mostly from out of Lagos and Abuja. So when you have a situation like that, you are 30 minutes already late for whatever it is you're trying to do. But you're not worried because you're on the airplane. But when you look at it critically, the 30 minutes delay is actually a cost to the airliner because you're burning fuel waiting to take off. So if the systems were done in such a way that maybe airlines now have slots, you know that you have to take off at a particular point in time, fixed, If you miss the slot, then you're delayed for maybe another 30 minutes, 1 hour. Then you find that efficiencies will build into the system naturally. In most of the airports you have internationally, slot system operates. And as a matter of fact, the slot system is a way for the airport company to earn money. Because you sell your premium slots to people who can bid and pay for it.
Are we going to continue like this?
Well, again,
no slots, passengers bearing the brunt, all the inconveniences, it goes on and on. In fact, they're on the increase.
The point is, how do we manage the policies governing aviation? Everything necessary to make the system run is in place, less the policies. The policies have to be driven in such a way that it is tied to what the country is looking at. Okay. Why is the country, why are we licensing airlines? To move people around? Again, we have 26, 36 airports, and only 3 or 4 of them account for 80% of our passengers. That is an aberration. So how do you deal with that? So there are a lot of issues, but when it boils down to what? Policy. Because you see, it is only how you drive it that makes it not work.
Okay, there's always the talk of policies, and in all honesty, as far as Nigeria as a whole goes, there is no, we don't have scarcity when it comes to policies, but the problem is the implementation.
Yes.
What are the mechanisms put in place? Okay, we were talking exactly about how passengers pay the brunt of these inadequacies, but how is it what effort is being put? What effort is being put so that the passengers know their rights, so as to, if there is an inconvenience, they know where to get compensation or redress or the like.
There is a desk, and it's supposed to be manned by an official of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. If on your flight you've had an issue and you feel need to register a complaint, that's the place to go to. So when you get there and you provide them with the details, you're required to fill out forms, you provide your details, and ideally, they should get back to you to tell you what steps they have taken. That's the way the system is meant to work.
After you have missed your flight.
This is now assuming that you have arrived. Assuming you haven't left. Again, at the point of departure, there is a desk. So if you go to complain to the officer there, the officer there is required to approach the management of that airline at the airport to find out what the problem is.
Okay, now what if the person there, I have a problem with her, who do I now file a complaint to in that regard?
How do you mean? You mean the CAA authority?
Yes.
Well, the CAA is the person you can still complain to, because they have the CPC unit.
Okay.
They will take it up and feed you back.
They are supposed to take it up, interact with the airline, and then get back to you for closure.
So that you can know what to do from that point.
Absolutely.
We want to thank you, Captain Roland Igayi.
Thank you very much.
We can't exhaust this conversation, but we thank you for the enlightenment and clarity you've brought to the table.
Thank you.
We are better informed, and some Nigerians will say, oh, this one is just grammar. We need to go to the next level.
Absolutely.
We do hope more people like you, who know what is right and who are prepared to do it, that our aviation industry will continue to thrive.
It should thrive.
Thank you for making the time. Thank you for watching.
Thank you very much, and toutes nos félicitations in French to the Senegalese. And we'll see you bright and early tomorrow.